It can take a while to get a dentist appointment, but for Britt Baker, she might never get another appointment with All Elite Wrestling again. Welcome back, guys, to the channel. It's Fog Wrestling, and we hear that working with Tony Khan can be like pulling teeth, but here, maybe Britt Baker's got all the time in the world now to pull as many teeth as she wants in her daytime job, because her work once a month job with AEW looks like it's gone.
I'm an Isaac Yankem kind of guy, alright? Glenn Jacobs kind of guy. I'm not a big Adam Cole sloppy seconds kind of guy, but when she last appeared in AEW, nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. Because Serena Deeb came out. See, to be brutally honest, I didn't care. I totally agreed with Britt Baker's sentiment here when she came out. But at the end of the day, is you can't really mouth that on TV, and that seems to be the defining blow to her AEW career.
You think that's it?
I think that's
the
it.
attack against Serena Deeb?
I called it in that review and went, that's not a good look. Even though Serena Deeb fucking sucks, I don't really... I mean, it's not professional, is it?
Nah. I mean, I've been accused of having a few non-professional moments, but I'm just a guy that makes some YouTube videos. I'm not working for AEW.
You're not on national telly.
Here, Tony, if you want to pay me all the money in the world, if you want to give me these $5 million contracts, I'll make sure I'm professional at all times. But yes, AEW star Britt Baker has not wrestled on Dynamite since November 13th, 2024 edition. There was a video from Diamond Dallas Page's YouTube channel in December where Britt stated she was off the road from AEW but was staying busy. And we know that she's also broke up with her ex-husband Adam Cole, so could be her relationship with Adam Cole's gone, could be her relationship with AEW's gone. Is everything falling apart? Will she end up in a different company? Is she one of these toxic women that nobody's going to want? We've heard, rumours that she could be in WWE. That was when AEW first started. She was supposed to be the woman that you'd think that maybe Triple H would look at and potentially take over, but I think since then her stock's kind of dropped, so yeah, I don't really know. The Britt Baker hype train, I think, is kind of derailed here, but let's see what wrestling analyst Wade Keller had to say about the situation, because he was talking about it on pwtorchvip.com. Now, if you pay for that, then congratulations to you. Wouldn't recommend it, but here, everyone's got to pay a price. So, here we go. Quote, "People have been wondering where Britt Baker is. She might be done with AEW. At least the feeling I'm getting from talking to people in AEW is Tony Khan might have her in the same category as some other wrestlers where they just don't get phone calls and just don't get called in to show up. There's a lot of frustration with her, I'm told, and I've heard this pretty consistently. She's wildly unpopular in the women's locker room. One person said no one ever wants to see her come back. Speaking of the women's locker room, now that is a bold, broad statement. I could imagine somebody on social media going, I'm a woman in AEW and I want her back. Okay, fair enough. But I'm just telling you, somebody's perception is nobody wants her back. That's how bad it is. Someone's willing to tell me that. There was an incident with her in MJF, and I'm told that factors into her being off television, but there are other issues that have come up. She has become increasingly difficult to work with in a general sense. She has always had a reputation for being difficult to work with. There was a specific situation recently, and not counting the MJF situation, where people just threw their hands up, and I don't know a lot of details on it, but I was told a little bit where it was sort of, maybe it wasn't like a huge deal, but it was enough to sort of be the last straw that broke the camel's back in terms of just that feeling, what we've got a strong women's division now compared to when she was on top, and we don't need to deal with her. She's going to be this difficult to work with, so that's why they are with her. I am told the Adam Cole situation is not stopping her, like there should be no heat on Adam Cole. He has nothing to do with her not being on TV, even though they were in a relationship, and then, as of last reports, they weren't, so that's not a factor. If it ever was, it isn't now. Obviously, she has some stand-up moments in AEW and became a star and was seen in the Counterpiece act. But even back then, I was hearing about her reputation and being unpopular in certain circles and difficult to work with and being fiercely territorial of her role in the company in a way that just felt unsustainable. And from that hearing, at least the attitude right now, at the moment, the belief is that Tony Khan is fed up that he's going to focus his TV time on others. I don't know what that means in terms of her pay and her contract, and that is possible eventually things will change. She'll make a phone call and apologise, or there'll be 5 major injuries on the women's roster and she'll still be under contract, so Tony Khan will call her and go, well, we need you now. Obviously, that caveats to this, but At this point, in asking around, it looks like you should not expect her back imminently, and that is the context of why. End of quote. Right, so a bit of a mouthful there from Wade Keller. To be honest, he seems to be all over the place. If this was Meltzer that said this, I wouldn't have been surprised, because there's no substance really. It's all guesses and ifs and buts, and not a lot of real factual information here from Wade Keller. But what we do know is she has been criticised for being difficult to work with. She was pretty much the main woman when the AEW's women's division wasn't that great. And I'm not saying it's great now, but I think there's certainly a lot better women on the AEW roster in 2025 than there was, let's say, in 1920 when AEW was first starting up. So maybe it was easier for Britt Baker to run the division back then, and maybe easier for her to demand things and take control and all this stuff. But I mean, she's not. I mean, she may have been the biggest female draw they had back then, but she's certainly not the biggest female draw they have now. And also, who knows, maybe the fact that she's no longer with Adam Cole, is that affecting her push in the company? Is that affecting her sway? I could imagine that Tony Khan would be more willing to put up with shit, or more willing to give her what she wants, if it's going to keep one of his little boyfriends, Adam Cole, happy. But now that there's no longer, that incentment for Tony Khan, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, you know what, fuck it, Britt Baker, I don't care about the women's division.
That's probably true, but you know what? See Wade Keller, Meltzer, man, I'm convinced these guys didn't go to school. See the way they string sentences together, man.
And it makes you sound like a retard, because you're reading what they say.
Yeah, I know, but he's on about, the women's locker room, none of them want her back, but then he's like, but there might be one person who says, I wouldn't mind her back, and then I know that undermines my entire point, but here it's alright because my name's Wade. It's like, no, you're just covering yourself. They never deal in absolutes. They deal in ifs and buts, and it's just like, for fuck.
Well, if they only dealed in absolutes, they probably wouldn't have many, talking points, because a lot of their stuff is ifs and buts.
No, but
they don't have the factual information. They can't come out and say Britt Baker is gone. She will never because that wouldn't be true. They'd be jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, and you know what, man? This guy can say what he thinks. I think it's that whole incident, November 13th, with Serena Deeb. I mean, I think a lot of people have forgotten about that MJF incident. I clicked that, but MJF and Will Ospreay, so they had a match that went over, and she vented about it backstage, and I mean, there was rumours at the time, Will Ospreay put the wall in beside her, MJF busted down the door, but the reality is, I don't think that really happened. I mean, I think she might have been pissed, and there might have been a verbal confrontation, but end of the day, is she not entitled to that? Like, here, Tony, the women are getting held back here because you want to give Will Ospreay 20 minutes on top of his already 30-minute match. I think that's a valid point for Britt Baker, but you're right.
Yeah, I remember that match didn't end to 15:15.
Yeah, like
that took up an hour and 15 minutes on a big, was it 250? Dynamite 250?
Mm-hmm.
And surely on an anniversary, you want to showcase the roster. You should be trying to put over the entire AEW roster, yet Tony Khan thought it would be better on Dynamite 250 to showcase a 1 hour and 15-minute match with a guy that was barely just in the door.
Yeah.
Ospreay. So, I can actually understand why she was a bit upset there.
No, totally. So, yeah, but I think you're right. If she's with Adam Cole, bye-bye, then she's definitely, there's going to be a bit more leeway. He's going to give her things and, turn a blind eye, but is it any coincidence ever since that relationship went on the rocks and since he got injured, the ball has been dropped in her court? No?
Yeah, I also think it doesn't help that the women's division's better now.
Yeah. Yo, she's not the best worker, she's not the best on the mic, and her attitude seems to stink. So, it's not even a loss. She's barely been there in the past 2 years, 18 months. So if they lost her, I mean, I don't think it's a loss really.
Not a loss. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think down below about Britt Baker. Do you think it's a loss? Do you think this is somebody that would be decent or somebody worth WWE signing? Could she be on Raw or SmackDown? Would it be a straight to NXT type deal? Or could she potentially end up in TNA? I mean, at this point, I guess TNA will take anybody. But I know Triple H, he likes his women. I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in NXT. But at the same time, she does have, quite a few years of experience on national TV. And for that reason alone, and people will laugh, they'll say it's AEW, it doesn't count. But I would say someone like Britt Baker would be more suited to go into the main roster than a Stephanie Fakir or a Julia, just for the simple fact that she's actually had years of experience on a mainstream network cable, on a big television company. And for me, that must mean something over these wrestlers that Triple H brings in that have worked their entire careers on the indie scene.
No, I totally agree. As much as we can joke about AEW, like, it has been on a good network now for a bunch of years. And it's way more exposure that they have had than people for MCLL or, some shitey promotion in Japan. I mean, Japan literally just lost. New Japan just literally lost its US TV deal. So, fucking even less size.
Like, if you bring MJF in, right, no matter what you think about the guy, he's good enough to go to Raw or SmackDown. He doesn't need to go to NXT to learn the ropes.
No, of course not.
So,
I'm not convinced he wouldn't go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Britt Baker, where do you think she'll appear next? I mean, the likelihood is AEW, considering she is contracted there, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see her end up in TNA, WWE. But we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see, guys. Anyway, it's time for Netflix, and El Penta's got a match tonight against Butch. So
can't wait. Oh, yeah.